All of these guys are going to be rendered jobless, so to speak.
Just 2 days following this interview, right-of-way markings were conspicuously placed across this establishment.
My name is Christabel. I'm a staff of Good Beach, a waiter to be precise. We've been hearing about Coastal Road and how it's going to affect us. At first, we thought it was just a defense part of the Good Beach. We didn't know that it's going to be everywhere. See, this morning, we saw security men with armed forces. They were here, marking everywhere. I'm going to lose my job, obviously.
I feel so sad, and I'm not happy, because this is going to affect me, and not only me, my other colleagues as well. Because mostly this year we feed, this year we aim to take care of the family and all. There's not too much than to find another work, but it's not going to be easy to get another job compared to this.
Several buildings within this ecosystem, although not directly within the right-of-way, have been marked with government acquisition markings ACQ. Arise understands that these properties are also slated for demolition, with the land to be acquired by the government in overriding public interest. This decision stems from concerns that the presence of these structures may impede the construction of the road. Business owners who received these markings declined to comment at this time. Situated next to the Good Beach is the largest container park in Africa, which is anticipated to become the largest in the world, Box Mall, Nigeria. Also known as Sol Beach, this beachfront haven will also be affected by the new coastal alignment. We reached out to the management team, but they declined to comment at this time. The business has already started deconstructing its container structures, signaling that demolition is imminent. One establishment that has received a lot of attention over the past few weeks is Landmark Beach, home to over 50 businesses that were situated within the right-of-way for the coastal highway. As a huge ecosystem with diverse infrastructure, ranging from apartments to offices to beachfront sites, Landmark now faces huge losses.
Okay, so many people analyze demolition just as a takedown of structure. It's more than just that. You have businesses that have contractual obligations. You have advertising deals. You have sponsorship deals. You have long-term contracts. You have people that have invested into Landmark Waterview Apartments for the view, which has been lost because of the demolition. So currently we are faced with a lot of financial losses from existing tenants that have bought spaces, from contracts we have, advertising, sponsorship contracts, staff liabilities, people that have paid to stay at the resort or other parts of Landmark. So in terms of losses, we've lost billions of naira currently because of demolition works that have happened. Infrastructure-wise, to create what we created here requires a lot of infrastructure, both on the ground and on top. So we've over time invested in doing much of that. And this excludes even the investment made by the different businesses here in Landmark. So it's a huge financial loss to us. We are confident that we can recover. We're not against the coastal road. We are supportive of it. So for us going forward, it's really a case of how do we work with the government, how do we get adequately compensated for all the demolition works that happened, and how does government also play a more supportive role to us to be able to consider the different businesses affected, the staff affected, and just let us stabilize over time.
Ironically, Landmark is highlighted by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture in a promotional video encouraging people to visit Lagos. While the completion of a coastal highway is anticipated to bring economic benefits to the country, there are significant repercussions, including unemployment, adverse impacts on tourism, and substantial losses. The government acknowledges these challenges, but asserts that the construction of this road serves the overriding public interest. Leila Johnson Salami, Arise News, Lagos.
Now, joining us now on the show is Dr. Lateef Onikoyi, an engineer and a member of the Renaissance Patriot Foundation, Dr. Onikoyi joined Lagos State Development and Property Corporation, LSDPC, as electrical engineer in 1991 and rose to chief electrical engineer. In 1999, when the Ministry of Housing was created by Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the governor of Lagos State, he was deployed to the ministry as chief engineer electrical, where he voluntarily retired in 2001. So the big conversation for us this morning, Dr. Onikoyi, and welcome to the morning show, is the talk around the demolitions, particularly within the state. That brilliant report there by Leila Johnson-Salami talking about the effect of the bigger one with the landmark and the coastal area. But we know there are others instituted instituted by the Lagos State government. Recently we had Mende, Maryland. I talked about the other areas earlier on. What people have complained about is that whilst the government says it is the buildings on the right of way, it's not done. It's done without notice in some instances. It's done without a sense of compassion for the people, as people are just, wake up one day and they lose their homes. I would like you to share your take on the demolition so far, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I want to start from the set of people we have in the civil service today. The civil servants we have nowadays, they don't think out of the box. Demolition or contravention is not new in any development. But when it comes, you see, you have to plan. I will give you an example. We had a relocation in what used to be called Hajj, the Dolphin Estates. When we started the Dolphin Estate in LSDPC, the duplexes, one of our directors in one of the site meetings observed and said, look at these structures, the Jakonde houses. These houses will devalue these duplexes we're building. And they will also be a threat to these people in terms of security because of the people living there. What did we do? We decided, okay, we are going to rebuild this structure so that it would be a modern structure. And within the estate, we relocated these people in the new structure, and LSFC also had flats left that were sold to public after relocating the people to recoup the money that was used in constructing that place. Why are there no people taken like that in this present dispensation we have? What did we do? There were pockets of lands there. We just decided we increase the number of flats in the upper block from 6 to 8. We started with 3 blocks. We had 24 flats. That 24 flats took away 4 blocks, and we resettled them. They were even paid some tokens to move their loads at no cost to them. You see, those who caused most of this problem are the civil servants. And this thing started since 1999. Why did I say that? Hardly will you see any director in the civil service today or a permanent secretary that started as a level 8 or level 7 officer. When the politician came, they brought in people who had those civil service experience, training, and put them starting from level 13 and above. So who trained them? They just came in and they make them shift.
So let's look at the case of Minde, for instance. Like, are you saying if you had experienced civil servants, the engagement should have been a whole lot better?
It should have been. It should have been. This is not the first time Lagos State had been reconstructing drainage channels. In fact, when the state construct drainage channels, they also create lands which they sell to people. Because by the time the canal is constructed, because you see, most of these channels, most of these canals are streams, natural streams that empty into, empties into lagoons. Yeah. We have them all over. So when mostly during the military era, they do the channelization, concrete it, and so on. Then you have land on both sides. But what is happening, the Mende issue, we have to blame both the government and also the developers.
Okay.
The developers, they tried to corrupt the system. They are not. Most of them, you know, when they submit their survey, they fly their coordinates. They fly their coordinates. So on the paper, the plot of land will be far away from the canal. While on the actual sense, the land is just at the tip of the canal.
All right. So from what you're saying, I'm trying to get from what you're saying that because no more people have even traced back to who gave the permission for these structures to be built. Why wasn't it flagged by the regulatory agencies? And this is where we say complicity. And then now, years down the line, the landlords, tenants, because they also have been displaced in terms of their homes, have to pay for this. So let's investigate and find out who ought to be responsible for the approval. What do you say about that? Do you say there's a case there in terms of there being an oversight challenge in this area whereby approvals were given, structures were built, and now the structures are said to be built illegally?
Yes. Recently, I had a commissioner saying 80% of houses in Lekki have no building approval. I just imagine, how can government come on TV and indict themselves? Why should people build without approval? What is the consequence for doing that? The policy is there. The law is there. When you have 80%, that means you should be expecting, even if the government doesn't do that, another government may come and say he wants to start demolishing illegal structures in Lekki. What happens? Most of the houses he's referring to are estates. The estates, the developers submit their plan. That is what we call layout for approval. And once they get that, they start selling the land and people start building. And nobody goes there to stop them. Or if they go there, whatever happens.
How can we make government more capable and away from this complicity? Because we see all this destruction that go on. Why is that government waits till people have invested their money? And you now destroy? Because look at what has been destroyed in real estate in Lagos. It's going to billions.
Yes, that was where I started from. The real civil servants will have protected themselves.
Are these ones fake civil servants? There's no fake civil servants?
No, you see,
experienced.
They are not experienced, they are not trained.
So
civil service.
So that means the Lagos civil service is faulty?
It's faulty as we have it now. Because, you see, I received a letter from an officer. I read the letter, I look at it. Is it a civil servant that wrote this? You see, there are things you were trained.
They don't know how to write letters?
Even letters.
If
somebody, an officer will write a letter as if he is the one. He is the one directing you. Whereas we were taught when we were in service to get order. The permanent or the commissioner or the governor had approved that you should do this. That has exonerated you. But now you see a letter, you are directed to remove this, as if he is the one saying it. That is not civil service.
So who pays? Because it looks like, from what you're saying, the people are paying for the incompetence of the civil service. So how do we correct that wrong?
You see,
we saw people crying on TV the other day.
Yes, you see, when we were there, we used to go for training.
But they still go for training now, don't they?
The training, who are those training them? Who are those training them? Those who don't even know anything about government policy. They are training them on maybe what they bring from another country.
Also, do you think politics has destroyed the civil service? Their partisanship has destroyed them?
That is the main.
Because now you have to be a member of a certain political party to rise up in civil service.
That is it.
We'll stop it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Audrey Okweshi over here with details of what's trending. Stay with us.
Guy, with the rising cost of things, we need to plan our next move.
Guy, I agree with you. I mean, with the money we make, we should not be struggling with our finances now.
Maybe you both need better banking options.
What do you know about better banking options?
I recently moved my salary account to Polaris Bank, and since then, it's been a smooth ride for me. They bought over my existing loan and gave me better interest rates and repayment terms.
Are you serious?
Yes, as a Polaris salary account holder, I can get personal term loan, auto loan, mortgage, 50% salary advance, credit card, and more without going to the bank.
Really?
I've got a personal term loan already. See, here's my credit card too.
How do I make the move?
Simple. Open a Polaris salary account on Vault. Use salary account as your referral code.
My guy, I am moving my salary accounts now.
Get personal term loan and more with your Polaris salary account. Vault is available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store.
Salary earners.
Where is Glory?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Hello? Where Glo now?
Are they here?
Glo don't go village. Tell all our customer abi.
Everybody pay attention. See, now Glo berekete 10x. Now him I they take tension my customers. Now they dash me 10 times the credits when I load. Or even sama me double data join.
Yeah. Wait, so with 1.5 when they give on the boss, so you they enjoy up to
15,000 naira credit and data. And I say I never finish you. See, when I say if we enjoy, if we not join Glo berekete 10x, when I go get 1,000 naira welcome credit. Finish.
Glo, you don't win.
Una see they here. Hello, please, I'm looking for Glo. Please save now Glo with the fine. Now Glo with the go. Okay, so
enjoy 10 times the value of your recharge on Glo Berekete 10X. You also get 1,000 naira for calls and data and double data bonus on your subscription.
As a Fidelity customer, you can take your bank with you wherever you go on our mobile app and *770# instant banking platform. Open up a world of opportunities and banking from anywhere without data or internet connection using the code *770#. Need to transfer funds? No problem. Pay bills from the comfort of your home? No problem. Buy airtime and check data on the move. Account balance, account opening, and more. No problem. At home or on the go, our mobile app offers all the convenience of online banking, as well as being able to apply for fast loans and earn loyalty reward points. Fidelity Electronic Banking. Take your bank with you wherever you go. We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. We've got Orji Jinix with stories trending around the world. Hello, Orji.
Good morning, Dr. Rufai. Good morning, Dr. Rufai. I'm so glad you're, I always say that. I'm so glad you're just laughing. Why is Dr. Abati? We miss him today. How are you this morning?
Very well, very well.
Fantastic.
And welcome back, our audience. We apologize, we're off the air for a bit. So we're back on the air now, all right? Go show us the love you normally will do. We love you.
Fantastic. We do love you. Why don't you blow the kiss to our viewers? We love you all. Oh, good morning, Ayo.
Good morning, Oji.
Fantastic.
You're looking good.
You too. You know why?
What were you planning?
We always do that.
What kind of? Yes. Almost the same stars.
You're excited today. Well, all right. We're missing Dr. Abati. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 elections, Atiku Abubakar, has faulted the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, and the federal government's plans to deploy 20 trillion naira of pension funds for infrastructure development in Nigeria. The finance minister revealed the plans at the Federal Executive Council meeting on Tuesday, stating that the government is focused on tapping into domestic financial resources for national growth, adding that it was a significant step towards driving economic progress and addressing critical infrastructure needs. Let's take a look before we take Atiku's reactions.
And the fact is that even before we start looking to foreign investors, we start looking to foreign funding, there is available in Nigeria long-term funds to fund infrastructure projects. And it's within the pension, life insurance, and investment fund industry generally. There is upwards of 20 trillion naira available, and much of it is in short-term funding that it doesn't need to be. Pension money is long-term. People save over their lifetime for their pension. And so, in conversation, in consultation, collaboration, and cooperation with the private sector, we are now able to announce, and with the full knowledge and support of all parties, that there will be an initiative to fund growth through investment in infrastructure, including housing, provision of mortgages, long-term mortgages, 25-year mortgages at relatively low interest rates. Initially, of course, the government will stand back and provide some support, particularly in this era of high interest rates. But eventually, as interest rates come down, there should be less role for the government through providing, for example, guarantees and so forth.
Your Rufai, of course, you know this is coming at a wrong time. A lot of Nigerians have condemned this actual action because, like pension funds can only contribute about 5% on, infrastructural development. So we need more explanation as to, how these monies will be dispersed. But, Atiku, condemned it as well, and his tweets reads in part. He provided no useful details, such as the percentage of the funds to be mopped up from the pension funds. Even at that, this move must be halted immediately. It is a misguided initiative that could lead to a disastrous consequence on the lives of Nigeria's hardworking men and women who toiled and saved and who now survive on their pensions, having retired from service. It is another attempt to perpetrate illegality by the federal government. The government must be cautioned to act strictly within the provisions of the Pension Reform Act of 2014, along with the revised regulation on investment of pension assets issued by the National Pension Commission. There are no easy ways for Mr. Edun to address the challenges of funding infrastructure development in Nigeria. He can't cut corners. He must introduce the necessary reforms to restore investor confidence in the Nigerian economy and to leverage private resource skills and technology. Rufai, over to you.
I mean, Oji, this matter concerns me because I have my money, my pension money in that 20 trillion. Please don't touch my money. Don't touch my pension funds. Don't touch my future, I beg you. If you cannot get money to run a nation, that's your problem. You campaigned that you were going to get money to run a nation effectively and provide infrastructure. Don't touch our pension fund. The law talks about 5% infrastructure because you don't want to hedge the future of workers that you can't even pay 70,000 wage now. Pensions that are very low already. Since we came to this pension scheme under Olusegun Obasanjo, don't touch it. It's not today they've been muting this idea. They've just seen at first it grew from about 13 trillion a couple of years ago to about now 20 trillion. You just see the post there, you want to touch it. Don't touch the PFAs. Don't touch it at all. Because we've seen the recklessness at which you manage it. You're talking about funds and things like that. It's only the statutory 5% you should mop up. The rest, don't touch it. Because you have done nothing to help the workers. There's still a lot of pensions being owed by state governments.
Yes.
Still owe these workers a lot of the pension. Pension arrears is still a lot of money that is still being owed. If that money comes into the fund, the pot should be bigger than it. So please, let's not even go there at all. You have taxed people, there's inflation raging hard, and the little thing about their future, now you want to go ahead and you're muting the idea. Don't even think of it at all. Atiku Abubakar is 100% correct on this. Apart from the 5% threshold you can touch for infrastructure investment, don't touch it for that because we've seen how you mismanage the money, inflate contracts and things like that. Then you're talking about pension fund, where the coastal road has a lot of priority. You are going to expend over 1 trillion. You quickly approve money now for the section 2 of the coastal road. And we are saying you can fix that money to housing and other things. Don't touch pension. And I know I'm speaking the minds of millions of Nigerian workers this morning. Don't touch it.
All right.
Leave it alone.
I mean, this is the great thing.
What is it?
This is the great thing of having a strong, opposition. I mein, we have seen Atiku Abubakar, always come out to challenge the federal government. And I think that this is something that they should look into. But before I come to you, Ayo, in another development, reactions have trailed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's approval of 90 billion naira to subsidize the cost of this year's Hajj pilgrimage. Vice President Kashim Shettima made the announcement during the inaugural Hajj airlift at the Sir Ahmadu Bello International Airport in Kebbi State on Wednesday. In his speech, Shettima emphasized the president's commitment to religious pilgrimage and urged intending pilgrims to pray for the success of the administration and to act as good ambassadors for Nigeria by observing all Hajj protocols in Saudi Arabia.
The President approved the release of 90 billion naira to subsidize the cost of pilgrimage for this year's Hajj. Therefore, I urge you not to relent in praying for the success of this administration, for the peace and progress of our country that we are proud to call our motherland.
All right, priorities, priorities, priorities. This is what we've always been advocating on this program. I mean, they want to touch pension funds like Rufai talked about. And then now it's 90 billion, not 1 million, not 1 billion, 90 billion. Well, let me take some reactions before I come to you. Hazard wrote, I'm curious to understand the rationale behind the government subsidizing Hajj in a country facing hunger and food shortages. While it is important to fulfill religious obligations, it seems more prudent to prioritize addressing the immediate needs of the population. Well, Olu wrote, taxpayers' money is being spent on religion that should be personal, but they said Nigeria is a secular state. Well, I hope they will sponsor Christian pilgrimage to Jerusalem too. But honestly, we don't need this right now. Pint of Gary is 3,500 naira. Poor men are struggling to breathe. Shall we quote President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Let the poor breathe. I mean, this, I believe, should also be looked into. Ayo.
Totally looked into, and I'm glad that you're taking this story straight after we've talked about the fact that they want to touch pension funds to be able to fund infrastructural projects. Now, there are two things. The first thing is that, yes, great idea that the government wants to invest in infrastructure. The other part of it is where the source of funding would come from. And so rather than attract the much needed investment in infrastructure, this government has taking what would be said to be the easy way out in terms of finding revenue. Of course, it's not free money like Alhaji Atiku Abubakar had mentioned. It's money that would have to be paid back, and it's money that belongs to the people. And there's also a concern, and this I think is the biggest, as to how the funds would even be managed if they succeed in touching the 20 trillion naira. Because if we'll take the money and then we'll be subsidizing 90 billion naira for Hajj, or be spending money, I know they say it's infrastructure, but at the end of the day, they'll say, oh, something came up, we had to spend money on that. And that's what we talk about, that when we borrow money, what the money is actually used for. We don't seem to look like a serious nation. If at this point, we are still paying 90 billion naira, this year's school feeding program is budgeted to be 100 billion naira, 10 billion naira shy of this money for Hajj. Do you know how many children can be fed in school, and then the effect on that, or the impact on that, in terms of having more children in school, especially in the north, which has the largest number of out-of-school children in the world? Do you know how much money that would go into?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't go to Hajj. Go to Hajj. But let it come from your personal pocket. Or let private, there are generous private individuals or organizations who might want to take this up as CSR. We need to be honest with ourselves as a nation. Yes. We keep saying, oh, don't touch religious things. Religion is very personal. Your faith in God is personal in terms of the fact that you choose to follow God in this manner. And if you're going to do anything, then if there are good, willing, well-meaning Nigerians who want to do it, and let them go ahead and do it. We need to be honest with ourselves. The second part of this is that someone said in the Twitter handle that if you did this for Muslims, then you do it for. So it means that we're looking at 180 billion naira for religious obligations.
Does that? Traditionalists.
Yeah, and traditionalists. So what it means, it breaks up because it's taxpayers' money.
This is it.
So as you were saying, Rufai, about pensions, that this is my money. This 90 billion, I hope Nigerians know that this is our money. This is our commonwealth. Yeah. And a few people are going to enjoy 90 billion naira of that to fulfill their personal religious obligations. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't show that we're serious about
well, we are glad, hopefully, that this government is a listening government. I hope that they are listening at this point. But, talking about travel in the meantime, following reports of a faulty presidential aircraft, a member of the House of Representatives, Ali Issa, has suggested that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should travel by road or use commercial flights for official engagements. Issa was contributing to a motion sponsored by the chairman of the House Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Satomi Ahmed, to probe the status of the presidential fleet. Let's take a look.
Mr. Speaker, since an issue has been raised, I will advise that the President should suspend using the presidential aircraft. If there is need, he can use either commercial or chartered aircraft. And another options, if that will also help Nigerians. If the President can travel by road, then Nigerians will have hope that our roads will be repaired soon. So, Mr. Speaker...
Honorable Ali Jesse, you are asking my president to use road to go to Europe.
No, I'm not saying Europe.
My president should go by road to Europe.
You can use... Mr. Speaker...
My president should use road
British Airways
to attend meetings in Europe and UK. But you are not using road to go to UK. The last time I checked, you were not traveling by road. And you want the president to travel by road to UK. Can we hear from the minority leader? I think allegiance has finished.
Mr. Speaker, anyway, minority leader should continue from where I stopped.
Fire. As funny as this sounds, I mean, it's all about, talking about cutting the cost of governance. Ayo said Pelumi did it. Why can't the president travel by road? Well, obviously, it's a joke. But so he should travel by road. But obviously,
I think maybe he's travel by road within the country.
Yeah, oh yes, of course. I think that's what he actually
do. Solo. I'm saying that human beings have done it before. So we'll let to take that. Well, I mean, obviously, not for official duties.
Yeah.
But it speaks volumes about what we're now facing. I mean, there was a story that came out as regards some skirmishes with the plane, and
Yes.
even the second one, the vice president not being able to go out of the country because of the plane and everything.
Yes.
One thing needs to be done as regards the presidential fleet. We need to do the maintenance as much as possible and all of that. But also, it doesn't stop the fact that we need to cut cost of government one way or the other. If we can't really afford the presidential fleet, I don't think we should keep it. I think part of it is, and it's not a big deal, we've had leaders of the world fly commercial.
Yeah.
You can just, appropriate a proper flight for them and all of that, or do charter and all of that. But the question is, can we increasingly afford it? That's a big question. As regards road travel, yes, the president does travel for road, but shorter proximity and things like that. I think increasingly the argument should also be about cutting the cost of running the presidency itself. Look at the case where we're talking about the presidential yacht that some people claim it didn't pay for and all of that. I think it also comes in front of that conversation. But I think also largely that we should be able to service the presidential fleet if it has any problems and ensure it's fit for purpose. But also now try as much as possible to be able to cut that cost one way or the other, because the cut needs to be cut. And this also brings forward the conversation where you now start seeing pictures of some time ago where the president's son was using the presidential jet. No, the presidential son should be able to fly his own, plane independently or wherever he wants to go to and things like that. But most importantly, we need to be able to cut the cost of government. But I don't subscribe to that guy saying the president should travel by car. But also, speaking of the presidential fleet, I have a problem with Nigeria that has multiple car producers having a presidential official car that is a Mercedes. I think what the government should now do is have a project called Project Nigeria Car One or something, where Nord, Innoson, Jet and other car makers are brought with their best engineers into a room to be able to make a proper presidential car that shows the strength of our auto industry and that also helps to grow the auto industry. It's not like your Beast and everything that is made by Chevrolet, an American car maker. So that the presidential car officially is made by, it's a bulletproof car and everything that's made by a Nigerian car maker. That will also help promote the industry.
Yes, but I think it is quite important that they actually do probe the, presidential fleet. We can't keep having these breakdowns. But the point really is the fact that they should cut the cost of governance by reducing all of these travels and flights. You're going to say something.
Can I just say that Liberian president, newly sworn in, President Boakai?
No, is this Senegal's president? Is it Senegal's
Boakai.
President? Okay.
Yeah, Boakai is
Boakai,
Liberia.
Liberia.
He recently said he was going to fly commercial because the country couldn't afford for him to fly private.
Even Senegal's president also had said something about having that sort of entourage and pageantry.
Yes, cut it down. Yes.
To cut down the cost of governance as well.
The former president of Botswana also did that as well. So it's not new. I'm trying to say that it is okay. It is normal. It is not out of the ordinary for a president to decide that he's not going to fly private or fly with the presidential fleet, that he will fly private, he will fly commercial, at least a chartered flight, a chartered commercial flight in order to save costs and cut the cost of governance. Beyond the president, OJ, I was speaking to Rufai yesterday and I was saying, how many governors do you see on commercial flights? That's because governors must fly around. So a lot of them fly private jets. A lot of them are that in terms of moving around. And it's a cost to the taxpayers, including states that cannot generate IG out to take care of their people, are flying private with that entourage when they cannot afford it. Why can't they fly business, private or first class, or even sit with the pilots? Just so that but at least there's something that it shows. It demonstrates the fact that I'm in touch with the fact that we cannot afford it. And I cannot afford to be living large where my people are suffering, people are hungry, people cannot go to school. And yet what's on my mind is not just flying private, but even sometimes stopping the movement of planes at certain times because you're asking a particular flight to wait because you're late. We need to talk about these things. Wastages in government in a country that is currently on its knees when it comes to revenue.
That the state with one of the highest number of unemployment in this country has a private jet that services their governor alone.
See what we're talking about. Well said, guys. We'll take another story. In Niger State, where the planned forced marriage of 100 girls, some often by insurgency, has sparked outrage among many Nigerians, including the Minister of Women's Affairs, Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, who lodged a petition with the Inspector General of Police and sought a court injunction to prevent the marriage of the girls. The controversy erupted following an announcement by the Speaker of the Niger State House of Assembly, Abdul Malik Sarinkin Daji, who was to sponsor the wedding, but later withdrew his plans after the minister's petition. However, the Niger State Imam Forum, made up of chief imams of Friday mosques and Islamic organizations, have vowed to go ahead with the wedding. The forum said the wedding should go on because it did not contravene the sections of the Nigerian Constitution and teachings of Islam. I mean, this I cannot believe. The speaker has said that he's not going to go ahead. I don't understand why these people wouldn't let lawmakers do their job. This is against the Child Rights Act. I mean, these people, these children, have they asked for their permission? Have they, told them who they are getting married to? We need to know these things. But I'm proud of the Minister of Women's Affairs, Uju Kennedy Ohaneye. This is a good one. She went straight to do that, right?
We are clapping for you, Uju Kennedy.
Yes, absolutely. She did really well at this point. And we're talking about Uju Kennedy Ohaneye at this point. We are, yes, absolutely. She did very well. She did very well.
I mean, good one.
Well, meanwhile, in Kano State, Shafiu Abubakar, a resident of Gezawa local government area of the state, on Wednesday set a mosque on fire, leaving at least 6 worshippers dead and several others injured. Abubakar was said to have used petrol to light up the mosque while about 40 worshippers were praying. He told the police that he perpetrated the act because members of the mosque had forced him to marry a girl that he did not like. The police, on the other hand, said preliminary investigations revealed that the incident was not a terrorist attack.
Unfortunate incident. We have seen it. An individual going to the mosque with a locally prepared bomb and exploding it in the mosque. From the interim investigations we have conducted so far, we got to know that it's not, and it has nothing to do with terrorism. The person that detonated the bomb, we have already arrested him actually, and he is making useful information to us. For now, we have about 24 victims. We just lost one of them.
Well, may their souls rest in peace. This is a horrible incident. But as you can see, the police, appears to be downplaying this incident. I mean, this would make, global headlines at this point. This, for me, is a terrorist attack.
It's a terrorist attack.
You had a locally made bomb. You went into a mosque and, killed people. 6 people have died. At least 24 people are suffering, several degrees of burns in the hospital right now, suffering at this moment. But you could hear what the guy said. The reason was because of some sort of, forced him to marry or some
He premeditated.
Yes.
He planned the attack. And the fact that he was forced to marry, if the marriage is not working for you, you can also dissolve it.
Yeah.
So it's not tenable at all. And I think he needs to face the full wrath of the law. He planted a terrorist attack that led to the killing of about 24 people. I know religion is a very touchy issue in this country, and that's why I want to go back to Uju Kennedy Ohaneye. I say, I stand with you, Minister. Please do not get deterred. What you've done is the right thing. How about this lawmaker saying, let's put these girls in school? Recently, President Tinubu's wife, Oluremi Tinubu, great woman by the way, launched the alternative school. How about you saying, Madam Tinubu, please, we want you to bring alternative school to Niger so that these girls can also get it right. You want to push people into marriages because you know they are not empowered, they can't make any impact, and you want to control the cycle of poverty and slavery where they give birth to children that are disadvantaged and now lead the next group of out-of-school children that will now in turn become the insurgents and be used for all sorts of nefarious vices? Is that what you want to do? How about saying, okay, let's set up a school, we can set them up, vocational studies, we can give them skills, make them somebody in life, empower them. Why is it always the short route? Just like what happened with the terrorists and people that came back the other time, they say you want to marry them off. Why is it always marry them off? What if the man you marry them doesn't have the financial capacity to take care of them? How about empowering the girl child? And that's why you see that some states are still reluctant to sign the child. I remember the protest, the Child Right Act. I remember the protest, Girl, a Child Not Bride, that we had to push for some days, where some senator was saying he wanted to marry somebody, you know. So please, let us not allow this happen in society. Absolutely. The police should call a spade, and this man should be taken to court. How can you kill people like that?
Call a spade. We must protect our girls as well. Well, all right. We'll take our final story under entertainment. The arrest of Afrobeats musician Habib Okikiola, also known as Portable, by the Lagos State Police Command on Tuesday for allegedly failing to pay the debt he incurred after purchasing a Mercedes G-Wagon from a car dealer, has been condemned by a cross-section of Nigerians and legal practitioners. Portable was said to have bought the vehicle worth 27 million naira, but paid only 13 million naira and reportedly refused to pay the rest. Olagbengbesi, a lawyer who represents celebrities, while reacting to the arrest in a post on Facebook, said that the method of debt recovery employed by the police blatantly disregarded the country's laws. He also argued that indebtedness is not a criminal offense and that even the Nigerian government has debts. Well, in a viral video, Portable was seen jumping over a gate in an attempt to evade arrest. He was later caught and forcibly carried by 4 police officers into a waiting vehicle. Let's take a look. All right, well, it's good that Portable has been released at this point, but you know, the lawyer was quite apt. I mean, even the Nigerian government has debt. Would they be dragging the Nigerian government over debt at this point? But Portable, man, that was a hilarious video. If you saw it.
Well, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
So he's Portable, aka Spider-Man. He actually is going to profit from this incident.
Absolutely, but I mean, it needs to be reviewed. The Lagos State Police Command, please do better. Well, Rufai.
My moral is don't go and take debt you cannot pay because you want to buy a car to show off.
G-Wagon, so absolutely. Well, all right. It's still, you know, we still need to hear the end of the story. Well, I'd like to thank you both for a great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Sorry, OG.
It's okay.
This guy starts to push you over the back end. We need to go. That's all we have on this morning show. Road to Three is up next for Global Business Update. Stay with us.
The Duchess Wellness Service is a premium quality health assessment and review designed primarily to focus on the early detection and treatment of long-term chronic disease. The range of diagnostic and treatment services available within the packages we offer are the very highest standard, comparable to health screening services offered in medical tourism destinations such as Dubai, Europe, and the United States.
It's affordable, it's not as expensive as you might think, it's definitely far cheaper than going abroad. And the fact that it's at home with local personnel who you can relate with and in an environment that's friendly and conducive, I think I'll thoroughly recommend it.
The extraordinary resources, technological advancements and treatments deployed at the Duchess International Hospital, all of which are required to reverse the trend of medical tourism abroad, would not have been possible without the funding and support received from our partners throughout the healthcare industry, and especially from Axis Bank.
You're watching Arise, the world's standout news channel. Proudly independent for more than a decade. Always bold, always fresh. Winner of several awards, local and global. winner of TV Channel of the Year from Organizations of Nigeria Awards. Winner of an Emmy from America's National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Still, we're changing the conversation to make sense of your world. We'll do it together, because now more than ever, you need a clear voice to guide you home. Arise News, awards, and beyond.
Knowledge is power. Information is currency. Trust us to tell you what you need to hear. Welcome to the program. You're with Arise News in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Breaking news, exclusive interviews, unrivaled analysis. It's you, the audience, who drives our agenda. We tell the stories that inform you, the stories that are important to you, and the stories that are about you. We are not every news channel. We are Arise News.
Hello and welcome to Arise News. You're watching the Global Business Report. I am Abby Olawi, coming to you from Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. Let's take a look at some of the stories currently making headlines across the business world today. China vows resolute measures after Biden's new tariffs. Now, still in China, the country is considering government purchases of unsold homes to help its property market. The European Commission says Eurozone inflation is set to fall faster than previously expected this year. And that's not the case in Nigeria, as inflation climbs to a fresh 28-year high in Africa's most populous nation. China has resisted Biden's administration's move to increase U.S. tariffs on a wide range of Chinese imports, vowing to take its own action without giving specifics. President Joe Biden is hiking tariffs on imports from China, with rates ranging from 25% for lithium-ion batteries to 50% for semiconductors and solar cells, to as much as 100% for electric vehicles. The announcement was the culmination of a review of predecessor Donald Trump's tariff increases, none of which were rolled back. Here's an excerpt from China's Ministry of Commerce's statement, which says China will take resolute measures to safeguard its own rights and interests. The U.S. should immediately correct its wrong actions and cancel the additional tariff measures against China. Now, there was further comment from Li Pengyu, who is Chinese embassy spokesperson, who said, "We want to tell our U.S. colleagues that blaming others won't make you more competitive. Stop using overcapacity as an excuse for trade protectionism. Stop politicizing economy and trade issues." On the U.S. side, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen stressed the need to protect U.S. businesses and said she doesn't believe the tariffs will lead to significant price increases. She said, and I quote, "It is important to protect our workers and our firms in these strategic sectors from the kind of dumping that results when China develops massive overcapacity in these areas. I don't believe that American consumers will see any meaningful increase in the prices that they face." Now, still in China, the country is considering a proposal to have local governments across the country buy millions of unsold homes in what would be one of its most ambitious attempts yet to salvage the beleaguered property market. The State Council is seeking feedback from several provinces and government entities on the preliminary plan. Over in Europe, inflation in the Eurozone is set to drop faster than previously expected this year, according to updated EU estimates. The European Commission on Wednesday said annual inflation in the single currency bloc is set to drop to 2.5% this year before reaching European Central Bank's 2% target in the second half of 2025. In its previous forecast in February, the Commission projected a more gradual decrease to 2.7% in 2024 and 2.2% next year. Still on inflation, in the United States, the Consumer Price Index cooled slightly in April after 3 elevated readings. Consumer prices rose by 0.3% from March to April, the Labor Department said on Wednesday, and down slightly from 0.4% the previous month. Measured year over year, inflation ticked down from 3.5% to 3.4%. And a gauge of underlying inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy costs, reached its lowest level in 3 years. Efosa Alui, who is head of investment at Sankara Global Investments, joins us now to discuss this further. Efosa, good morning to you. It's a pleasure to have you on Global Business Report.
Good morning. Thanks
Great.
for having me.
Now, we saw U.S. stocks rally at this latest inflation print. How would you interpret this latest CPI figures?
I mean, I think the weaker than expected CPI number, coupled with the retail sales number as well that we saw yesterday. I mean, month-on-month CPI came in at 0.3%. The market had expected a print of 0.4%, and this translated into a year-on-year print of 3.4% as against the previous print that we saw at 3.5%. So this weaker than expected number, coupled with the retail sales number that was essentially flat, right? The market was expecting a 0.4% jump in retail sales. So all of these essentially allude to the fact that, the disinflationary trend that we had seen towards the end of last year is sort of continuing. And on the back of that, we saw U.S. stocks really rally. I mean, the S&P was up about 1.17%, crossing the 5,300 mark for the first time. Important to also note that this was its 23rd record close this year. It's been a very, very strong year. If you look at the NASDAQ as well, it closed about 1.42%. Its 8th record close this year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 88 basis points. Its 18th record close this year. So, the weaker than expected print has proven very significantly positive for the market. If you even look at the Treasury market as well, we saw the 2-year and the 10-year Treasury yields decline by 10 and 9 basis points respectively to about 4.34 and 4.72. So overall, this number provided what I'll call positive sentiment for the market. If you even look at the Fed funds futures, it's now pricing in a 75.3% chance of a rate cut in September. If you looked at that number on Tuesday, it was 65.1. So it tells you that this, weaker than expected inflation or CPI print, coupled with the weaker than expected retail sales print, has provided very significant, positive sentiments, for the market, really.
And like you said, there's been strong performance for a while, so there's a bit of leeway there. But how do you suppose Jerome Powell and the U.S. Fed will review these numbers? And does it mean anything for U.S. monetary policy? Yeah, so I think,
Chairman J. Powell has really reiterated the fact that they will continue to look at the data. And I think this is just one data point yet, right? If you look at that, inflation year-on-year number, it's still higher than the 1-year average. It's still higher than the year-to-date average. So it's just one, data point, really. And they've actually reiterated the fact that they will need, a couple of months of sustainable disinflationary trend, for the Fed to actually move. So I don't think that it changes anything significantly. I think the market reaction is, something that the market really had been looking forward to, right? It was basically what the market wanted to see, and it played into what the market, wanted, But in terms of monetary policy, this is just one data point. We will need to see inflation for a couple more months. We need to see job numbers for a couple more months for us to get to the point where we, are sure that the Federal Reserve will begin to start to cut. But I think another positive thing is the fact that the Fed had hinted at the fact that, a rate hike really wasn't on the cards at this time. So that continues to provide, positive support for broader market momentum, really. So a bit more monitoring before we have any sort of certainty as to what the direction is. Well, across the pond in Europe, we've seen the EU Commission now review downwards its inflation forecast for this year and the next year. What are the triggers here? I mean, I think that on the inflation front, the EU has probably fared better than what we've seen in the US. You know, the impact of, you know, the Red Sea trade route closure has been significantly milder than had been anticipated, and that has even led to a decrease in the cost of, you know, food and other items that, you know, the European Commission had expected would, you know, grow quite significantly. You know, so on the back of that, there have been these revisions that have seen, you know, inflation expectation dialed back. The expectation was that we'll see inflation, you know, close this year at 2.7%. That has been revised down to 2.5%, and that in 2025 we're going to see, you know, inflation hit the ECB mark around 2%. And this just continues to support, you know, the narrative of, you know, the ECB actually moving first or moving before the Fed to normalize or to cut, you know, interest rates.
Right, but talking about the ECB, like the US Fed, what does this review then mean for Christine Lagarde and the rate path for the ECB?
I mean, I think it provides more impetus for the ECB really to be on that path to cut, which they had essentially been on, if you will, over the last couple of months, really. So, I mean, this further downward revision, you know, in the CPI expectation just gives further impetus to the ECB to, you know, pretty much normalize or cut interest rates, you know, as we see it.
Okay, that's quite an outlook on it, which is fair enough. Now, back to the U.S. and let's look at this Biden tariffs. Do you believe that the 100% is a bit excessive? How do you view those hikes?
I mean, I think these are largely protectionist moves that would at best delay, you know, the influx of Chinese EVs into the U.S. market. It would at best delay it. I don't think it would prevent it. I think, you know, the U.S. government right now is reacting to and trying to claw back really a lot of lost time, if you will. If you recall, the Inflation Reduction Act really is at the heart of this, where, you know, you are looking at a lot of grants to EVs and, you know, clean technology in the U.S. However, if you look at what has happened in China over the last couple of years, there's been very heavy subsidies going towards EV producers in China that, you know, the U.S. is fearing will lead to overcapacity and could then lead to dumping. You know, but nevertheless, I think these are, you know, largely, you know, protectionist moves. I don't think it would prevent those Chinese EVs from coming into the U.S. For instance, and I think that they could be potentially inflationary. The only challenge there really is that, you know, these tariffs apply to just only about 18 billion worth of goods. You know, in 2023, imports from China into the U.S. was about 427 billion. So this is just about slightly above 4%, really. So the impact of which I don't expect to be, you know, really, really significant. But then if you look at, you know, BYD, for instance, you know, it's an EV player in China. It has this small EV called the Seagull. It costs about $10,000, right? With 100% tariff, right? That EV still appears from a price point much more competitive than most of the EVs in America. So I don't know that it significantly changes, you know, anything really, but I think these are, you know, largely symbolic moves that are, you know, largely protectionist, and, you know, I don't think that it changes anything, you know, significantly.
Right. I mean, it's about national interest first, right? But,
Absolutely.
You know, China is kicking back and not taking this news, you know, very likely, but they haven't also revealed any sort of retaliatory, you know, plans or moves yet. Do you believe this is inflammatory enough? I'm talking with regards to the 100% tariff. Is this inflammatory enough to lead to some sort of trade war like we had with the Trump administration?
I don't think that we would necessarily have a trade war, you know, as the case may be. But I think that it is only expected that China will certainly kick and sort of react to this. Like I said, it's really a small portion of, you know, the trade between the U.S. and China. But again, it is also very symbolic. So you would expect that China would certainly, you know, react to this. It really remains to be seen what retaliatory moves China would make. But I think that what the U.S. is really trying to do is to, you know, protect its own EV industry. But I think overall, this might not necessarily bode well for, you know, the global clean energy agenda at the end of the day, because it tends to distort and limit, you know, fair competition, if you will. So I think those are some of the key challenges that we kind of need to grapple with going forward.
Does China have a right to retaliate? You know, I mean, from a protectionist point of view, I would expect that it's something that would equally affect the U.S. in terms of trade, right? What do you see any of that being on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely have the right to retaliate, but I think the critical question is really, how do you retaliate, right? What do you do exactly? Yeah. If you look at U.S. Exports to China, they're just slightly under $150 billion, right? And a lot of it is largely agricultural produce. So where do you retaliate? And these are things that China really does need. So where do you retaliate? Again, if you look at what has been happening, there's a lot of Chinese capacity that has been ramped up in Mexico. Right. So what is happening? This tariff really is targeting products that are coming in from China. It doesn't say anything about products that are coming in from elsewhere that are Chinese products. So you could still see a lot of those Chinese products flow through the U.S. from Mexico because there's a lot of Chinese capacity that's been built up just south of the U.S. border. So that's another thing to grapple with at the end of the day.
But what are the immediate effects of this for consumers within these markets?
Right. Like I said, it portends to be inflationary, right? So there is that impact there. But again, if you look at the overall picture, this portion is really small in terms of the overall export, from China into the United States.
All right. In wrapping up very briefly, please, still on China, what do you make of the consideration to purchase unsold homes by local government?
I mean, I think it's another move again by China to kind of try and deal with this beleaguered property sector. Home sales plunged 47% in the first 4 months of this year. Unsold inventories sit pretty much at about an 8-year high. China has tried to do this before with, not much success really. And the idea really is to have state-owned enterprises and local governments buy these homes. However, if you look at the state of these state-owned enterprises and local government, they are really bogged down with a lot of debt. At the end of 2022, corporate debt in China was about 29 trillion. That's pretty much the same debts of the United States as at that period. So the leeway or the room for these state-owned enterprises to sort of maneuver and buy up these properties, it seems very limited. However, China is currently looking to issue an ultra-long bond, 1 trillion yuan, about $138 billion, tenor ranging from between 20 and 50 years. I understand that the first issue will come out tomorrow. So maybe this will form part of the funding for that, remains to be seen. But again, there are estimates that say China requires about 7 trillion yuan to take care of this property issue. So again, it's a lot. And these are steps that I believe that ultimately might be able to take care of the problem, but it really does remain to be seen.
Absolutely. Well, it's certainly been an eventful week already so far. We just have to wait and see how things unfold. Oversight, many thanks for being on the Global Business Report this morning.
Thanks for having me.
You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News. Coming up, Nigeria's inflation soars to 33.69% amid higher food, energy, commodity prices. Details shortly. Stay with us. Thanks.
My kids are more than precious to me. Seeing them doing well, healthy and happy brings me so much joy. I know it's my responsibility to ensure they are well nourished. So I use Dangote salt in my cooking. It is high quality salt that's refined and iodized to give great taste to my meals and also support my family's health and well-being. And it's got a name that I trust. Dangote salt is refined and iodized to help prevent iodine deficiency disorders. So give your family meals that taste delicious and support their well-being with Dangote salt. It's time to care about your salt. Choose quality, choose Dangote salt.
A little too much for a small save? Well, that's Access Bank's Diamond Extra. You too can win big this season as Diamond Extra Season 16 is back. With at least 5,000 Naira in your Diamond Extra account, 200 lucky people stand a chance of winning loads of cash every month till December. 1,000 lucky people will get free digital marketing training, and 3 lucky people will drive home with brand new cars each during this Extra Flex season. So, what are you waiting for?
Welcome back to the Global Business Report. Now, the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics reports that in April 2024, the headline inflation rate increased by 0.49% points to 33.69% from 32 33.2, in March 2024. When comparing year-over-year data, the rate of inflation in April 2024 was 11.47% greater than that of April 2023. This suggests that throughout the previous year, there has been a notable increase in the headline inflation rates. Additionally, the month-to-month inflation rate for April 2024 was 2.29%, a decrease of 0.73% from the 3.02% rate reported in March 2024. This implies that prices climbed in April 2024 at a slower rate than they did in March 2024. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Ernest Addison, says investments in African fintechs are important to drive innovation across the continent. Speaking at the opening formalities of a 3-day Pan-African Summit on Fintech and Digital Economy in Accra on Tuesday, the central bank chief joined other African policy leaders to discuss the potential of technology in Africa and the scalability of solutions that could support rapid socio-economic development.
Distinguished guests, the rapid evolution of technology has impacted all facets of life globally. For the financial sector, actualization of novel technologies in the payment ecosystem has revolutionized business transactions, reshaped customer behavior, and redefined the nature of commerce. Presently, we stand on the precipice of a global digital era, especially with artificial intelligence, and there is now a sense of urgency for Africa to accelerate the digitalization agenda through the 3 I's of innovation, investment, and impactful policies to boost economic growth and development. As Africans, we have an advantage in the digitization race based on the bulging and tech-savvy youthful population, the high mobile phone penetration, the consistent expansion of mobile network access, coupled with the rising homegrown fintech solutions. These factors have provided fertile grounds to accelerate the digitalization agenda across the continent. While these are commendable, it is important to note that despite that the lack of requisite investments in African fintechs could slow the pace of innovation and scalability of solutions in achieving the desired impact of a digitized Africa. The general lack of investor visibility is a major challenge for most local fintechs. Without sufficient capital, brilliant ideas, and the prototypes of fintech startup solutions with the potential to address the diverse financial service needs fail to progress to production. The regulatory aspect is another major reason not to ignore the issue of deficient funding in the fintech space. Fintech should have the ability to navigate regulatory requirements and meet compliance standards, which we all agree are non-negotiables, especially in Africa's financial industry. Hence, the need to address the information gap between investors and fintech startups to stimulate the payment ecosystem. Against this background, the goal of the 3i Africa Summit is simple, yet audacious, and that is to share the African fintech narrative, discuss the opportunities and challenges on how to employ digital technology, as well as enhance collaboration among policymakers, investors, and innovators to advance the economic prosperity of the African continent and its partners.
Digital innovation, enabling the competitiveness of our continent, inclusion in terms of financial bankability of small, medium enterprises, of young people. In my opinion, this is the revolution that I believe, leveraging on digital technology, that we should be relying on. So those, again, I want to relate to South Africa, those who say, oh, we are revolutionaries, we're fighting the capitalist system. Yes, but innovation, digital innovation, technology, leveraging on it to advance the objectives of May 1963. In my view, the connection could not be clearer. Couldn't be clearer that our founding mothers and fathers said, we want a Pan-African payment union. And therefore, in the wisdom of our heads of states, we have that particular responsibility today to deploy digital technologies to advance on that vision. And His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is the champion for financial institutions for the entire African Union. I was with Orama yesterday, and we were discussing this particular issue of the sovereignty of the African continent in terms of payment. Because tomorrow I may upset someone in Washington, and I won't be able to make payments. I'll be cut out of global payments, architecture, and infrastructure. Because I've upset someone in Washington. Fortunately, my wife is American, so she will mediate on my behalf. The point is, the emerging global geopolitical context, geoeconomic context should compel us as Africans to say, how do we emerge from this particular context, this situation that we are in? I want again to emphasize what His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo often says. Akufo-Addo often says that Africa beyond aid. Africa beyond aid. And again, I quote him, he said, we are not for a white man who is Russian or a white man who is French. We are for Africa. So this, in my opinion, this question of the existential economic sovereignty of our continent is precisely why the African Continental Free Trade Area was established, so that we leverage on this market of 1.4 billion people, which by 2050 is projected to be the 8th or the 7th largest economy in the world, 16.3 trillion United States dollars at that time, 2050, 27 years from now. But if we don't deploy these digital technologies that all of us are going to be discussing today and tomorrow, I don't know that we will reach that objective.
You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News. Coming up, Tinubu inaugurates 3 gas projects, pledges to wean Nigeria from over-dependence on petrol and diesel. We'll be discussing that and other oil and gas news with David Guatao, who is investment research analyst at ARM Securities. Details shortly. Stay with us.
Where is Glory? Excuse me, ma'am.
Hello! Oh, where Glow now?
Are they here?
Glow don't go village. Tell all our customer abi.
Everybody pay attention. See, now Glow berekete 10x. Now him I they take tension my customers. Now they dash me 10 times the credits when I load. Or even summer me double data join.
Yeah. Wait, so with 1.5 when they give all of us, so you they enjoy up to
15,000 naira credit and data. And I say I never finish you. See, when I say if you enjoy, if you join Glow berekete 10x, when I go get 1,000 naira welcome credits. Finish.
Glow, you don't win.
Una see they here.
Hello, please, I'm looking for Glow.
Please save now Glow they fine. Now Glow they go.
Okay, so
enjoy 10 times the value of your recharge on Glow Berekete 10X. You also get 1,000 naira for calls and data and double data bonus on your subscription.
Guy, with the rising cost of things, we need to plan our next move.
Guy, I agree with you. I mean, with the money we make, we should not be struggling with our finances now.
Maybe you both need better banking options.
What do you know about better banking options?
I recently moved my salary account to Polaris Bank, and since then, it's been a smooth ride for me. They bought over my existing loan and gave me better interest rates and repayment terms.
Are you serious?
Yes, as a Polaris salary account holder, I can get personal term loan, auto loan, mortgage, 50% salary advance, credit card, and more without going to the bank.
Really?
I've got a personal term loan already. See, here's my credit card too.
How do I make the move?
Simple. Open a Polaris salary account on Vault. Use salary account as your referral code.
My guy, I am moving my salary accounts now.
Get personal term loan and more with your Polaris salary account. Vault is available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store.
Salary earners.
Welcome back to the Global Business Report. Now, according to the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries monthly oil market report for April, Nigeria's average crude oil output increased slightly to 1.281 million barrels per day. Direct sources from the federal government claim that daily output of crude oil climbed from 1.231 million barrels per day to 1.281 million barrels per day, a gain of 51,000 barrels. The oil cartel's secondary sources of statistics, however, showed that the average daily output of oil has decreased by 46,000 barrels from 1.4 million barrels to 1.354 million barrels per day. President Bola Tinubu yesterday inaugurated 3 critical gas projects in Delta and Imo states, pledging to reverse Nigeria's overdependence on petrol and diesel to more efficient natural gas resources. The president spoke virtually at the commissioning of the expansion of the Ashta Vinayak hydrocarbon gas processing plants in Delta, the Asa North Ohaji gas processing plant in Ohaji, Egbema, and the Obiafu Obrikam Oban transfer metering station gas pipeline projects. Tinubu stated that the 3 projects are of utmost importance to him as it significantly increased Nigeria's aspiration to embrace cleaner and more efficient fuels.
To reiterate the federal government's resolve to continue to provide support to deepen domestic gas utilization, increase national power generation capacity,
This is Arise News. We interrupt this program for a live event.
You may be wondering, why is he starting a lecture series? The reason is not far-fetched. The clock is ticking, and by the grace of God, on my next birthday, I will be 65, and will undoubtedly qualify to be an elder statesman. In my moment of soliloquy, I asked, what next? I'm sure I have written over 1,000 articles, spoken endlessly on radio and television, but not much has changed for my greatly endowed country, Nigeria, and its long-suffering people. My verdict was that criticism alone cannot do the job. I decided to use my God-given wealth of influence and confidence to reach out to our leaders, technocrats, and my fellow citizens in general. So the next phase of my struggle would be to encourage some dialogue and conversations. I'm someone who follows his thoughts with action. So I immediately came up with the idea of a national and international lecture. And this is the first of its series. So my first move was to think up a topic. That was quite easy. My country is riddled with all manner of debilitating challenges, of which we are all guilty in various degrees of culpability. rather than continue to have the blame game, of which again we are all experts at, and we're also champions of complaining and lamenting like the biblical Jeremiah. So I decided to do something. Why can't we end this endless energy crisis? The most disturbing thing for a Nigerian, the most embarrassing, is this energy thing. It's as if it's rocket science. And we go to smaller countries and we enjoy this energy that we cannot have here. So I thought to myself, if I want to buy any product, all I need to do is pay and it will be delivered to me. So how come we pay for electricity and it cannot be delivered? I can see Prof looking at me. That is the challenge I'm throwing at you and our leaders seated here today. With all our humongous investments in electricity, they've all gone up practically in smoke. The more we paid, the less electricity we got. Since electricity affects all of us, we should gather in this room today and discuss solutions in a non-partisan atmosphere. You're welcome, Your Excellency, Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, the former governor of Kano State and former presidential candidate. Thank you so much for coming. So, as I told former Vice President Atiku Abubakar a few days ago, let it be said that I played my part very well. And that should be the mission of everyone in this room. Play your part very well. So after picking the topic, I had to find the lecturer who must be well grounded in the subject matter. I thought of no other than my dear brother, Professor Bartholomew Nnaji, who is seated here today. His intimidating resume speaks for itself. So I won't bore you with it because we'll be here all day if we were to look at it, but we will publish it later. So on 20th March 2014, I took a leap of faith and sent a message to him requesting for just 2 minutes, a 2-minute call. Pronto, he responded. And we spoke for exactly 2 minutes. His words were truly encouraging and inspiring. Dele, you are not just a consequential Nigerian, but a consequential African. I will not say no to your request. And he's here today. Please help me thank you. In the choice of today's chairman, I wasted no time in calling on the great African leader, the former president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, who in 18 months of one tenure, not second tenure, one tenure, he has one more to go. Hopefully, he will get it this year. I said, please, I want you to be the chairman. He told me, Dele, consider it done. He will be here any minute from now. He landed in Nigeria last night, having flown from London to Ghana 2 days ago, and had to travel out of Accra to come back to Accra and land in Lagos last night. So the rain, they are in the traffic, trying to navigate their way to NIA. So, of course, my brother, I call him Peter the Rock, former governor, Peter Obi. Anytime you call him, is always as cool, as calm as the cucumber. So, my brother, why not? This man, we met on a flight to London last year, and it was around the time of my birthday. So I told him, I said, my birthday is on Tuesday. He said, oh, he's going somewhere. I think he went to Italy or something. He said, but the day of your birthday is, I'm leaving on Virgin Atlantic in the night to Lagos. He said, so I will check in and come to your house. I was looking at the logistics. I said, no, it's not possible. You won't believe it. He showed up like an apparition in my house. So please help me give him a big round of applause. So I called, I have a young friend. He is my button to Senator Alhaji Raju Kwankwaso, and that's Mubarak. Where is Mubarak? That's my best friend. So anytime I want to reach his dad, I just call Mubarak. He said, give me some time, I'll come back to you. And I called Mubarak. And then, maybe around midnight, Alhaji walks late into the night. I don't know how he does it, but he is such a brilliant gentleman. So Mubarak called me and said, hold on for Daddy. So I told Daddy, I said, please, I want you to come to Lagos. I know how far Lagos is from Abuja. And these days, for people who don't have too much, flying can be very difficult. And he said, no, Dele, I will honor you. You won't believe it. Till Mubarak called me again a few nights ago, I was still doubting that maybe they will call me. In fact, when I saw his call, I thought he was going to say, oh, sorry, Daddy cannot make it. Daddy is there. Please. This is one of the most powerful, one of the most dogged politicians in Nigeria. And I'm sure he's following in the robust tradition of Kano politics. The Malam Aminu Kanos, the Abubakar Rimis, and I'm happy that we still have people like you in our political system. May Allah continue to bless you, sir. So, the next thing, I wanted a venue. You would have expected that maybe we go to a hotel and all that, but how do you listen to a good lecture in a too comfortable environment? So I said, no. I wanted a serious environment where everybody, please help me welcome the former president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, please. Thank you, sir. I knew the rain did do some shaggy, but we are representing you. Fortunately, my speech is the first, so you haven't missed anything, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes. So I settled for a place as the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, which I like to call our own Chatham House. Our own Chatham House is abandoned and is to send a powerful message to all of us that we should not abandon this place. The Director General is here, Professor Sage. Please stand up for recognition. Fantastic man. He invited me to be an associate fellow here, and I'm very grateful. I promised you that we will do something here, and I'm happy that we're doing it now. This is the bastion of intellectual diplomacy and home to robust ideas. I knew its auditorium was not in top shape, but this will be an opportunity to address the ugly attitude of ignoring our age-old institutions by making my own contribution. So, as a man of modest income, you must have read my letter. I'm proud to say I'm a man of modest income. I offered to buy 2 new air conditioners. You can see one there, you can see one here. Otherwise, we'll be sweating by now. I decided to change the red carpet, so you can see it looks new. That is what my modest income can afford. So, just like I did in my own village, you see, I realized that we all want to live comfortably within our homes without taking care of our environment. So in my village, in Ieve, in Owan East local government of Edo State, I had to tar the road to my village, to my home in the village. You won't believe it. Because otherwise, all of us will buy navigators and be navigating through undulating roads. So that is what we did. Then beyond these cosmetic arrangements, there was something more important to me. In 1994, on this very podium, this was where Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, my adopted father, attended his last corporate event, which was hosted by Unduka Obagbena. So for me, it brings back those memories. And I'm happy to announce that I have in this audience his daughter, who happens to be one of my biggest fans. I don't know what I have done to deserve it, but I have to do. Abiola, please stand up. Tundu Abiola, is a television celebrity, extremely brilliant like his dad. And then I have a young friend who had to skip school today just to be with me. I didn't know until his mom told me, and that's Abiola's grandchild, Tarek. Please stand up for recognition. So you don't know how you affect people when you do things. So he insisted he must come with the mom, and they are here today. That's how I operate. If I believe in you, it doesn't matter. I will follow you to the depth of the ocean. President Mahama knows that. There is nothing they've not done to separate us. I said, Umba, we can't do that. So he's not here, but he's on his way. I can never thank enough our chief host, who is my egbon by 3 days. But in our culture, 3 days makes you a permanent older person. And that is His Excellency, Governor Ademola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke, the governor of Oyo State. Osun State, will be joining us in a minute. Then I needed a brain box. A brain box. I consult him. People think you can do things alone. No matter how brilliant you are, you must seek help. The brain box is sitting right here, Mr. Leke Holder. Please stand up. This is the biggest in branding in Nigeria, if not Africa. And this man, I'm sure he doesn't mind, was battling with cancer and battling with other ailments. And he insisted we must have a session about this. All this branding you are seeing, he did gratis. Please help me thank him. He is such a man of courage. I call him Professor Socrates. So whenever I need something creative, I run to Professor Socrates. So I'm not advertising, but I am promoting that whenever you need to do something serious, please talk to this genius. I can go on and on and on, but I don't want to take so much of your time because the lecturer is ready. And yes, the lecturer is ready, and we have to, the show must go on. In all of this, what I want us to learn is that when you are committed to a struggle, you should not look back. Your family will bear the brunt and even the scars of it. I'm hardly at home. My first son, Olupekon, flew in this morning, and he has to return tomorrow to his work in London. He just came in this morning, and I want to thank him, thank his brother, Anytime Yoli, Eniafelamo, and above all, Chief Mrs. Mubolaji Abiodun Arike Momodu Omarowo Shugbo Oberiri Obesokoto Berry. Thank you so much, and God bless you all. Dr. over to you. Well, trust Bob D to end that on a romantic note. I'm sure we're all learning from him. Well, very quickly, as he was speaking, we had arriving Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso, presidential candidate of the NMPP in the 2023 general elections and former governor of Kano State. Your Excellency, you're welcome, sir. And then also the chairman of this occasion arrived. But before I introduce the chairman, trying to give him a little time to catch his breath because he just joined us. But I also like to remark on the point Bob D was making about being very modest. Well, when I was introducing Bob D earlier on, I forgot to add the fact that he's a politician. In 2011, we will all recall that he tried to run for the presidency of Nigeria on the platform of the Labour Party. Now, that didn't work. He eventually ran on the platform of the National Conscience Party. We know the story of how that went. And then subsequently in 2022, he also showed interest in the presidency of Nigeria, but he ended up being one of the managers, media managers of the People's Democratic Party. And I've seen quite a number of persons from the People's Democratic Party here, including Eta Uso, who must have worked with Bob D at that time. Then, of course, a few more introductions. Senator Lubi Fadeyi is here. Yeye Adenike Shobaju is here. Ibrahima Fogzi, I saw him coming in earlier on. We also have here Erilu Olajumoke Fadeyi. We have Agbaoye Kola Karim. We have Mr. Shegun Ogunsoya, GMD, Airtel Africa. And then we have Dr. Stephen Akintayo. We have Gbadebo Roadsvival. Gbadebo Roadsvival was the gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party in Lagos State during the 2023 general elections. Mr. Ralph Limo, thank you for joining us. Dr. Bobby Moreau, Council, South African Embassy, thank you. Ketura King, I see you. Thank you for coming. Right, okay. And then very quickly, I'm now going to invite the chairman of this occasion to give his opening remarks before we go to the main lecture. Much later, the introductions will continue. Well, we're very privileged to have President John Dramani Mahama, one of those African leaders who have practically done everything. He started his political career as a member of parliament, representing is it Boli Bomboy constituency from the Upper Volta region. And then he later went on to become a deputy minister and later substantive minister of communications. So look at it, MP, member of parliament, deputy minister, minister, later became vice president. And then when we had that unfortunate incident of the death of President John Atta Mills, he assumed office, and that was in 2012, July 2012. And he was president of Ghana from 2012 to 2017. Can we have a round of applause for him? Now, at the moment, President Mahama is the presidential candidate of the National Democratic Congress in the forthcoming 2024 general elections. During the primaries, he won the selection process, the voting process, by over 99% of the votes, which shows his popularity. Now, President Mahama is also an author, author of My First Coup d'etat, which is a book I recommend, to you all, very well written. And nobody should be surprised because he's also a writer.
You know, he used to run a column in one of the newspapers in Ghana titled Mahama's Hammer. Well, no innuendo intended. But in addition to this, he has also served Africa, particularly in various capacities. He's been chairman of the ECOWAS, the regional body. He has led missions to elections, and he was the first Ghanaian president who became president who was born after Ghanaian independence. And then, of course, he continues to be honored all over the world, and he has very strong connections with Nigeria. He was given a honorary doctorate degree, for example, by Ekiti State University. The Faculty of Management Sciences of that Ekiti State University is also named after him. So in addition to many international, honors, awards, and recognitions. And President Mahama here as chairman at a discourse on the politics of energy and the way forward. I mean, we could not have chosen a better chairman, because the subject is a subject that is very familiar, that resonates with the good people of Ghana. There's something in Ghana they call Dumso. Dumso means power cuts. And it was a very serious problem between 2012 and 2017. Now, up to now, this is 2024, Ghanaians are still talking about the effect of Dumso on businesses and lifestyles and productivity. So you see, we have a lot in common with Ghana. And part of the problem they have with the energy sector there is even Parliament not paying electricity bills. That must be very familiar to Nigerians, where government institutions don't pay bills. And also issues of infrastructure and issues also, of resources with regard to energy. And just as in Ghana, they are talking about electric vehicles and alternative energy, we are also having that conversation here in Nigeria. So there's a lot that we share in common, and certainly President Mahama, given his rich experience and the leadership that he continues to provide in and out of office and on the field of politics, is eminently qualified to comment on these issues and provide very significant direction. Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask you to put your hands together for President Mahama as he invites him to the podium.
Thank you very much, and let me celebrate my friend and brother, Dele Momodu, and to congratulate him on this initiative and thank him for inviting me to join you. There's so many distinguished citizens here, and in order that I don't fall into the danger of not acknowledging anybody, let me proceed on the protocols that have been established, and to thank you all very much. Let me also apologize for my late arrival. We had a problem with the rainstorm that suddenly broke when we're about to set off, and I'm happy that finally we arrived. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be here today to chair the inaugural Dele Momodu Leadership Lecture, the theme of which is the politics of energy and the way forward for Nigeria. This theme is most appropriate and suitable because despite Africa's tremendous energy resources such as hydro, wind, solar, and hydrocarbon potential, the continent continues to suffer from a severe energy deficit that undermines equitable economic growth and development. As you may be aware, the African continent is home to about 17.89% of the world's population, and it has about 600 million of its people without access to electricity. with a staggering 98% in sub-Saharan Africa and another 940 million people lacking access to clean cooking fuels and technologies. This calls for bold and decisive policies by continental leaders and pooling resources together if the continent is to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which aims to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy by the year 2030. World energy politics and the role of Nigeria. By its size, economic power, and population alone, Nigeria can be described as a natural continental economic leader and powerhouse in Africa. When we look more specifically at the country's energy resources, such as its oil, gas, and other minerals, Nigeria has the unique opportunity and the potential to achieve energy security and sufficiency for itself and indeed the entire West African sub-region. Today, our world is at a crossroads of what has become known as the energy trilemma. That is sustainability, energy security, and affordability. Already many Western countries have taken the path of transitioning to renewable energy primarily because of the factor of climate change and partly due to global geopolitical tensions. As a result, most sub-Saharan African countries are at the high risk of having stranded assets in petroleum reserves and infrastructure. Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa must address the critical question about which energy pathway we intend to adopt. Are we to take a path of a wholesale transition by capping our oil and gas wells, or must we adopt a customized energy transition that prioritizes climate justice, wealth creation, and inclusive growth? This is a critical question we need to answer. And sub-Saharan Africa, especially West African sub-region, is looking up to our big brother Nigeria to make this decision. And this is the moment Nigeria must show leadership in the global politics of energy. Ghana's power sector has evolved over the years with the first power plant, the Akosombo hydroelectric dam, which currently produces 1,020 megawatts capacity, constructed under our nation's first president, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, in 1967. In 1982, the Pong hydroelectric power station was commissioned, and this increased Ghana's installed hydro generation capacity by another 160 megawatts. Although the Akosombo and Pond dams were designed to provide adequate electricity generation into the foreseeable future, Ghana suffered its first power crisis in 1984, following a severe drought, disrupting the generational capacity of the two hydro dams. And despite the commissioning of the third hydro dam, a 400 megawatt Bui hydroelectric power dam in 2013, the power supply remained erratic and unreliable. With increasing energy demand coupled with unpredictable hydrology, dependence on the country's hydro potential as the sole source of electricity has proved untenable. And therefore, a decision was taken to diversify the nation's generation mix by introducing thermal power and other forms of energy to augment the hydro capacity from the 1990s. To realize this objective and to resolve a crippling energy crisis, and as our compare said, it's popularly called Doomso in Ghana. Doom means off, so means on. So it means off and on. That's a literal translation of Doomso. I don't know how you say it in Nigeria, but I remember when I was here, it says, NEPA don't take power. Yeah. As a result of this crisis, and I was president then, I led the fastest mobilization of thermal power in the history of Ghana, mobilizing about 1,000 megawatts of emergency thermal power to the country's generation mix by the time I left office in 2017. Mindful of the need to attain fuel supply security and reliability while addressing environmental concerns, the government of Ghana initiated various policy measures to ensure that the country derives maximum benefits from its newly discovered oil and gas resources by ushering in what we called the gas to power era. This was evidenced in the establishment of the Ghana National Gas Development Task Force to review and propose approaches to ensure full utilization of the country's gas resources through a gas commercialization project in 2009. And this culminated in processing plant in the Elumile district of the Western region to process from Hajj and 10 fields to following the discovery of additional gas resources in the